Brown County Sheriff's Office is warning about a new scam that's happening to family members of people who've been arrested. That scam works by the scammer monitoring the jail roster and then calling family members of people who were taken into custody and asking for bail money. Family then checks the jail roster themselves, finding that their family has indeed been arrested, which can lend credibility to the scam. The Sheriff's Office emphasizes bail is only accepted in cash given directly to the law enforcement agency, and that anybody who asks for payment in PayPal, phone cards, or gift cards is a scammer. Anyone who's been affected by the scam should contact their bank or credit card company and file a report with police.